And welcome to Down with the Browns. And welcome back to another episode of Down with the Browns. You're here with your host, Christian. And Down with the Browns has a very, very important announcement to make.
Let's go.
We're announcing a new host to the show in Manny Maxwell.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What is up? What is up?
I'm so glad you joined the podcast.
I am so stoked, man. This is amazing. Got myself a mic, so hope I'm sounding great, and we're ready to go. Man, thank you so much for the opportunity. Honestly, this is going to be such a great ride.
Dude. Guess what? You're getting down with the Browns now.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, baby.
Yes, sir. And let's just get into it, man. There's been a lot of stuff. Well, not a lot of stuff, but there's been some stuff that's happened since our last episode.
Oh, yeah. There's been some rumors for sure.
Yeah, there's been some rumors and some Twitter posts and Instagram posts from a certain receiver we got here.
8-0, man. 80. Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious! And it's definitely getting attention that it deserves, because honestly, when you're talking about a guy who is OBJ's best friend, and you saw the way OBJ exited, so a lot of people biting the fingernails.
Yeah, that's as soon as I saw the post and I heard the post on Instagram, and I heard the soundtrack behind it, because it said something like on the lines of sometimes you're not where you want to be, or something on the lines of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I literally told my dad, I was like, oh man, we're gonna have another OBJ situation. This is about to get real ugly real quick.
Absolutely.
And then the next day, he makes a couple tweets, and he says that he wants to be in Cleveland, but the ball is in Cleveland's court.
Which is very interesting, because he's under contract next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting.
Which is what I'm gathering from that information that he's tweeted. He's wanting to get that payday. He's wanting that $16.4 million.
Yes. Oh, yes. And it's kind of just a beacon saying, hey, listen, if you think I'm going to take a huge pay cut going down to like $6 or $7 million to stay in Cleveland,
yeah, that's what I kind of gathered from that. But at the end of the day, the NFL's a business.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, Bernie Kosar got cut. Joe Montana walked away from the 49ers. Brett Favre walked away from the Packers. So at the end of the day, not everybody has that fairy tale ending where they go out with the same team that drafted them.
Yep. Absolutely. And the same thing even happened to Peyton Manning with the Colts. They just let him go after that neck injury. So, sent him to Denver. So, it's a business. It's a business.
Yeah, which, we didn't draft Jarvis, but, it feels like he was meant to be a Cleveland Brown.
Absolutely. He's definitely been a huge part of changing the culture here for Cleveland. That's for sure. That is for sure. For sure. So, honestly, owed $16 million next year. How do you feel about that?
Man, that's a hefty price to pay for a receiver. I love Jarvis, but Jarvis is not your Devontae Adams, your D-Hop, your Tyreek Hill. He's not one of them receivers. I would say he's not in the elite, but he's in the good receiver category.
Yes. Reliable.
Yeah, he's he's a really good slot receiver.
A very good slot receiver, for sure.
But $16 million for a slot receiver, that's a hefty.
It's a little bit pricey, and per sporttrack.com, spottrack.com, there's only 4 names that are higher than him, that are paid higher than him wide receiver wise in the NFL. And I'm just going to shout them out for you right now. Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, and Cooper Kupp. He is getting paid the 5th highest paid receiver in the NFL, and I love Jarvis, but I'm not paying you that much money to just be the heart and soul of my team. What I mean? You're gonna have to give me a little bit more.
Yeah, you can get, I hate to say it, but you can get another leader in the locker room for a lot less.
And I think that, honestly, when I saw that, that was a little bit jarring because some of those names, I'm looking at the production that they're giving to their prospective teams, and the names that he's higher than, it's like, I don't know, not for 16 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
last year he didn't have a full season of good health. He came back early from the injuries.
To be fair, yeah.
But he's never really had that with the Browns. Like, I mean, he had that. Yeah. In 2019, he had, I think, 1,200 yards. With us.
Yes, which was very promising. You know what I mean? It looked really good. But it's for some weird reason we didn't feel it. You know what I mean? Like it's unfortunate because of the injuries. That's the problem that I'm having, and I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And it seems like, through his tweets, I saw one of the tweets stating that he was playing hurt since week 2, and was kind of shading. I think it was the medical staff for a trend that we have kind of been seeing lately since this offseason started, that they're sending guys back a little early. Yeah,
like that was the same staff that was clearing Baker Mayfield every week, and you could obviously tell he should not be out there at all.
No, shouldn't have been out there.
They cleared Jed back way too early. Like, I mean, it hurt him and put him out even longer than it should have.
Yeah, Kareem
Hunt, Jack Conklin.
Yes,
he's another one.
Oh my goodness, sending guys out there, and I think a part of the reason too is not only was the AFC North so tight, the AFC was so tight, and it was kind of like, guys, come on, let's just rub some dirt on it and get out there. We have a chance to win the AFC North. But it's, you run the risk. You run that risk.
Which, I mean, football is a very physical game. You're going to get hit. You're going to get hurt. It happens. Sometimes players tough through it, as we saw a lot of Browns players did last year. They toughed through some pretty substantial injuries.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, I mean, the job wasn't done. And, it's you got to step back from football sometimes and look at the person, because they're people too. Like, it's not like they're like, it's not like it's a video game. It's not like, oh, you can go in and edit that injury. You can turn off injuries. Like, these are people too.
It is a very hurtful, and honestly, sometimes I see, even when I'm playing video games, Madden asks me if I want to keep a player in who's injured, and I'm like, keep him in, accept that, depending on who it is. If it's like Myles Garrett, I'm just like, accept that, stay right in the game. And it's like, in real life, they're really playing, not only like playing injured, but a lot of people are playing for contracts, and they're playing for money, and they're playing for prove it deals. And, I think that also Baker Mayfield was one of the people who fell victim to that. He understands that, hey, I'm on a prove it deal, like a mini prove it deal for the year. This year being the actual prove it deal. But, he wanted to show that he was tough and things like that. But sometimes you got to save the player from himself.
Yeah, because a lot of guys, even a lot of times, and just in life or even in the gym, you'll be hurting and you're like, all right, I'm going to push through it. And in all reality, you should stop what you're doing, because you can really hurt yourself.
You really can. You really can.
And a lot of times you're like, it's just a mental thing, and then it's not. It's just your body telling you need to stop. Like,
exactly. It's a warning sign to stop quit while you're ahead, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate for a lot of these players out here who are trying their absolute best to continue and push through. But, sometimes you really got to step back and say, hey, this is not the situation. This is not the place for it.
Yeah. And, going back to the Jarvis tweets, I know it's kind of jumping back, but he said that he's going to come back into the season healthy. And he's going to be better than he was last year. And I fully believe that he could.
Absolutely.
But that's still a sturdy contract.
And that's the thing that if I were a pro Browns person in Jarvis's corner, I would say, hey, listen, take a little bit less money. If they want to bring in a guy who is a bona fide number one receiver, so that it takes a little bit off the attention off of you, right? I would feel, if I were Jarvis Landry, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable if there was a bona fide, wide receiver that was gonna get, you know what I mean, and give you a little bit more reps, a little bit more time to get open.
Well, you go back to the 2019 season.
Yeah.
When OBJ was healthy the whole year, or slightly healthy the whole year. And Jarvis was the number 2. He had a career high in yards, I believe.
Well, yeah. What was and that's something that I think a lot of people need to realize and go back to. And it there were times that it did work. You know, it did work. It's not like it was a complete failure. You know what I mean? But it's just it's tough. It's tough. And I think that if he comes back and wants to not budge on the 16 million, I am very interested as what the Browns would do. I mean, the writing's on the wall. We kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And, I mean, there's 2 ways. If he does one out, there's 2 things that could happen. I mean, you can cut him or you can trade him.
Yeah.
And
what are you thinking?
There's this trade situation that's been popping up around Twitter.
Okay.
I mean, I tweeted it on the podcast page on Twitter, and it was about Calvin Ridley, and it was like a second for Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
I mean, if we
kind of blew up.
Yeah, it kind of popped off a little bit. But, if the Falcons are wanting another receiver, I mean, we could swap Jarvis and maybe like a 4th, 3rd, 5th, whatever round they want to go. Send them to Atlanta for a Calvin Ridley.
Yes.
And a lot of people were interacting with that tweet on Twitter, and they were saying, like, you're not going to get Calvin Ridley for anything less than a 1st or a couple first. The dude quit on the Falcons. He's obviously, they have no leverage. The Falcons have 0 leverage.
Zero. People need to understand that.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Like, when we traded for Jarvis Landry was a hot receiver.
Yes, he was.
Yes. And we got him for a 4th and 7th.
Yep.
So
it's sometimes, and you're looking at Atlanta and you're saying, that might be a situation where their hands are tied. And we've seen teams in those kinds of situations. And so I think that it might be more reasonable than people think. And I think sometimes it's the tendency to say, hey, we're getting a really good wide receiver that's known for basically an unknown draft pick, which equals that's never going to happen. I would pump the brakes a little bit there. There's a high chance that it can. And we've seen it before. So I personally like that.
What was it D-Hop was traded for?
Oh my gosh, D-Hop was traded for literally, I think it was either a 3rd or a 4th round pick.
I thought it was a second.
It was. I think it was a second. It was like virtually a bag of chips. I thought.
Yeah, it was like whatever it was that he got or the Texans got for D-Hop. It was pretty much the reason Bill O'Brien got fired.
Yeah. It was for Johnson, a 2020 second rounder and a 2021 4th rounder. Yeah.
So like nothing, pretty much.
Yeah. And D-Hop even tweeted it out previously and was like, I know what I was traded for. I see it in the news. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? But at that time, I think the Texans, I don't even know what the Texans were doing. They were giving everybody away. They were just letting everybody walk.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
It can be. I don't think that the Ridley for a second is something to scoff at, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah. And I think that I know like player for player, that's don't really happen a lot. Yeah. So like maybe like the Jarvis thing, and maybe Atlanta gets him and they just see it as an opportunity to cut ties. Yes. And all they're losing in that deal is really like $1.5 million. Yeah. So that's how much that's how much is guaranteed out of that deal.
Yes.
So, I mean, you get rid of the guy that quit on the team.
Yes.
You get a 3rd, 4th, whatever the Browns want to give. Yeah. You get that pick, and then you get Ridley's contract off the books too.
Yeah. And I think it's a win-win for everybody. I believe that Ridley was struggling with like mental health, and so I think depending on, prayers up for him, but depending on what he's going through, and I think personally a change of scenery would be good for him, to be completely honest. I know that a lot of people were saying in the comments, they're like, isn't Ridley dealing with some things? But I'm under the assumption that it was the situation there. We don't know a lot about it, you know what I mean? But I do believe that it might have been the situation.
That's what I was kind of gathering, because he was so used to winning with all like, I mean, they didn't win a lot, but he had Julio and all
Julio
that.
leaving, I believe that had a lot to do with it. You know what I mean? That's a guy you look up to.
Yeah.
When Ridley came into the league. So,
and I think that the way Atlanta was running things, and which they had just got a new coach, I believe, or they were in the process of getting a new coach.
Yeah.
And I guess he just really didn't like the situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be he was actually dealing with some mental health, or it might have been just the situation in Atlanta.
Absolutely. And obviously they're riding heavy on Cordell Patterson now, basically Deebo Samuels and doing everything there, kick returning and running back and wide receiver. So and now with Kyle Pitts, I think that, I don't know. I would imagine that they want to keep him, but I believe that they would give him up for a second.
Yeah. So I think that's a cool situation to think about, like maybe acquiring him. I think he would be a stud in Cleveland. I know a lot of people are like, buddy, we ain't got a quarterback to throw to the wide receivers.
Every time.
But that's a go-to for everybody on Twitter. Like, Baker wasn't the best quarterback last year at all. No, not going to defend last year at all.
No.
But, I know this is kind of segue off of what we were talking about. But, like, I don't think there's an option really that wouldn't leave you without a lot of assets moving forward.
Yes.
And the way I've noticed AB, he builds the team is like he's not gonna overgive for somebody that's a position that they can acquire through the draft.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was just going to, just reiterate that I that's why a lot of people are saying, trust AB, which is very confident, because a lot of times as Browns fans, we don't, we couldn't really trust the GM, and we know that he won't put the Browns in a situation where they're drowning. And so I was excited when we got AB back to be a general manager, because I know what he's capable of. And so if he decides to go a route that's other than Baker Mayfield next year, I'm like, all right, this guy got something up his sleeves.
Yeah. And, I think that I don't know if we're going to acquire a veteran quarterback. That's just me. I mean, if we're going to go veteran, I want Russell Wilson. That's going to be a hard thing to get. He's going to be hard to get. But personally, AB is still a young man in football.
Yeah, for sure.
He's just 30-something.
I think
34, 35.
Yeah.
So I think he's still very young. You've got Stefanski, who's still a very young coach.
Yeah, 34.
I think that next year, if Baker's not your dude, you're going to see them draft a quarterback.
Absolutely.
And I think this Browns team's good enough to make the playoffs, even with bad quarterback play.
100%.
And I've saw, there's been some group chats we've talked about if the Browns do just good enough to make the playoffs, how that'll affect the draft pick and the quality of quarterback we get.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that as a concern for most people as well. They were like, well, if Baker does, what happens if Baker goes 11-6 and this or the other, and it affects the positioning of the draft. Listen, I believe that I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Berry makes a trade here that sets us up to be able to be in good position to draft a quarterback next year. You know what I mean? Something that's under the radar, and we're like, oh, I don't know what that pick.
Yeah, like he trades back from 13 maybe
exactly
to move up,
exactly for something that's 2020, 3 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, get a first round for next year.
Exactly. So I think I wouldn't put it past him to do something like that. And if he does, I cannot wait. We're going to point that out on Twitter. It's like, kind of, because you just don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get from Baker this year.
Yeah.
And I think that if he goes off, great. It's going to be put that, it's going to, like we said last time on the last podcast, it's going to put Cleveland in a very interesting spot, So, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. And, if Baker was the guy, let's go. If he's not, we're not. We've got everybody under contract pretty much, except you've got a few guys like Clowney, Njoku, and Ward that we still need to get signed.
Yes.
That's about the only people I can think of that we really, really need to re-sign, because everybody else is under contract extensions and their rookie deal still.
We've got to take care of Denzel Ward. I'm not sure why it's taking so long.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I trust an AB if his. I don't know if he's just waiting closer to maybe the new year. Maybe we get a little extra cash. Maybe he's waiting to cut people.
That's
move
true.
some money around.
That is true. Wait till the NFL year starts, and I'm kind of interested to see what these other teams do.
Yeah, and the way I've noticed AB did a lot of deals last year was like he pushed money out, and it was like it didn't take that big of a hit like this year or next year, and like it was spaced out, and it was more like incentive based.
Yes, incentive based salary, and you even see it in OBJ's a little bit of OBJ's contract.
Yeah,
some incentives. I saw that he made like $3 million, but like it's very interesting, to see, and honestly, like. Other corners too. I just heard about J.C. Jackson in New England, having some, being potentially like, it seems like there's some gripes there. He doesn't like the fact that they're holding out on him. So I even tweeted out, with some eyeball emojis. I know people were saying that it's hard to do, but I'm sure that Andrew Berry's like, oh, hey, turn an eye up at that for sure.
Yeah, and like a 4 or 5 year contract extension wouldn't be bad for the Warden,
Not at all. I have just a few of the corners that are out there, like the top 5. Just if you want to give Denzel like a top 5 corner contract, obviously you're looking at number 1, Jalen Ramsey at $20 million. Number 2, Marshawn Lattimore for the Saints at 19.5. Marlon Humphrey, 19.5. Tre'Davious White in Buffalo, 17.2. And Darius Slay, 16.6. And I think, to me, if I had to put Denzel in a category, I have him a little bit over Darius Slay, maybe matching up right with Tre'Davious White. Yeah. Maybe on a 4-year, $72 million deal for 4 years.
Yeah, and I mean that just means the Warden's up for re-election. Get him
up for re-election. For 4 years.
Even with that 4-year deal,
4 years, 72. Get it. And I think that that's really like. I think that's really appeasing to Denzel if he wants a 5-year. Get him up in the $90 million a year range. So obviously, I personally don't think that he should be making any more than Jalen Ramsey. Obviously, I don't want to. He's the best corner in the league, but so I think that's where I have Denzel probably about the 3rd or 4th highest paid corner, which would get him paid a little bit more than Darius Slay. So very interesting there.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's a top 5 corner for sure. He's the only corner I really saw last year that could keep up with Jamar Chase. And I mean, Jamar Chase is going to be with the Bengals for a very long time.
Very long time.
So we're going to have to keep Denzel Ward for a very long time.
Absolutely. Case in point. And I think that he has definitely proved it. And again, I want to say that I was on the front line of saying the beginning half of this season, the past season, I was like, where on earth is Denzel Ward? Like, where is he? I had no idea. And then he just made a splash in the second half, and then went to the Pro Bowl. I was like, "Oh, okay, there you are."
Yeah, he started going off.
Yeah, so it's like I have no problems, and in a day and age, you're going to need your corners. You hear the names I just rattled off, the highest paid corners. I mean, they're game changers. They really are. Yeah, and they're on for the most part, they're on pretty good teams. So I think that pay the man. And then let the chips fall where they may, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we got another lockdown corner in Greg Newsome. And just to continue watching him to grow alongside of Denzel Ward if we can re-sign him for a 4 to 5 year deal. I mean, you've got them guaranteed for the next 4 years because I mean, he's gonna get the 5th year option, obviously.
Well, to be honest with you, with this cornerback room, with some of the guys that are playing in there, I really do believe the way this defense is constructed, we have the opportunity to be a young little Legion of Boom 2.0. I really do think that that's the case. And honestly, I have full faith in Grant Delpit, and I love what I've seen out of him. I love what I've seen out of Greedy Williams. And honestly, like, I just want Greedy Williams to stay healthy, like I said last podcast.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm not sure what we're going to do with JJ3, but I think that the potential for these corners, for the safety, for the free safety positions, it's so to see how AB has worked the system to put everybody in that position. It's like, man, oh man, it's very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, and I really think that the secondary is going to continue to grow, as we said last podcast, and I think JJ3 is going to be a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Because he's such a leader, and I mean the Rams. I mean they didn't really. I mean they just won a Super Bowl. Yeah, so I mean you can't really knock their secondary, but like that they missed him on that back end.
You know they did. They did.
So
and it's I hope that he understands what we're doing in Cleveland and that he is comfortable with staying here. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting to see.
The defense, I don't think you just got to get some depth pieces. Just re-sign who we got. The only position that really needs fixed is that defensive tackle. Which, I mean, they'll probably address that through the draft, and they'll probably get a veteran up front, which we kind of talked about that last podcast too.
Yeah.
And it's just really the focal point is the receivers, and then the tight ends are it's kind of up in the air right now because I mean Njoku's a free agent. Possibility of maybe cutting Hooper if we do re-sign Njoku, or maybe letting him walk and keeping Hooper. Like, I mean, it's just kind of up in the air. You don't know what the Browns are going to do or keep both. Like,
and it'll be interesting because I wonder if they do re-sign, like if they're going to re-sign David Njoku or are they going to franchise him? And I know that if they franchise him, they would have to pay him the at least an average of what the top 5 tight ends are making at that position.
Yeah.
And so I know that the top 5 highest paid tight ends are Kittle from San Fran, Austin Hooper from Cleveland, Hunter Henry, Juno Smith, and Cameron Brate from Tampa Bay. And about the average right there is about $10 million, $11 million. So I know some people are skeptical about bringing back David Njoku for $11 million for 1 year if you're also going to be paying Hooper potentially. But you proposed an idea before, and I really like it. You want to say what that idea is about the swap out basically?
Which tight end was it?
Of Austin Hooper's contract.
Oh, just kind of cutting Hooper and then just giving pretty much the contract we gave to Hooper, just give it to Njoku.
Exactly.
And I think that would be great because Njoku's been here since 2017. He went through the winless year. So I mean, he's got this. I mean, he's felt the love and the passion of the Browns fans, so he kind of knows what's up.
Cleveland. I believe he loves Cleveland.
Yeah,
and Cleveland loves him back for sure. He's definitely a tough guy, and I love watching when we get those nationally televised games. I love watching David Njoku out there in 0-degree weather with his shirt off. He's a monster. You know what I mean? And it's like it just gets you hype. He's one of those guys who really is for the locker room, and I believe, from what I can tell, is a great teammate for sure.
Yeah. And just watching him since his rookie year just grow as a player, because his rookie year, I mean, he was a phenomenal pass catcher in the end zone, but he had problems with drops. And he was an absolute terrible blocking tight end. Terrible.
Yes.
And then year 2 happens. I believe he got hurt his second year.
Yeah.
And then third year comes, he got hurt again. So last year was his third year, right?
I think that last year was his third year. Yes. Yeah. Because he came in with that TJ Watt draft. I think last year was his.
Yeah, he came in with Miles.
Yeah.
So I know there was one year he missed. So it must have been last year when he improved his blocking drastically. Yeah, like looked like a total different tight end.
And also we even saw like some beautiful flashes of across the middle play versus the Chargers. Like, we saw him just run right by everybody. You know what I mean? And that made me really smile because I'm like, here's a guy who can sound like Chris Collinsworth, but like, here's a guy who can really, who can really stretch the field in a way that I believe, I don't know. I wasn't comfortable with Austin Hooper doing, the drop balls, the falling over when you're catching it. I really like David Njoku, and if you did cut Austin Hooper, you do need another tight end in there. I'm not fully confident in Harrison Bryant yet. I like what I've seen a little bit out of him. He's, I know he had there's injuries, but I don't want him to move up to that TE2 position just yet. So there's some free agents out there that you can probably fill that slot with. Yeah,
and there's two free agents that kind of caught my eye when I was looking over the list earlier.
Yeah, talk to me.
Which before the podcast, me and you were chatting about it, and which I didn't see the projected contract one of them was projected to get, and it was Zach Ertz.
Yeah,
and he's projected to get like $11 million over per year for 2 years, and I don't know if I want to pay a 31-year-old that tight end.
It's definitely caused pause. The thing that I do, the one defense that I'll come to Zach Ertz about is I believe he was a primary target in Philadelphia, the same esque way that Travis Kelce is in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. So he's heavily used. It's not like you're going to be picking up a guy like Austin Hooper, who was, you could say, a product of his environment in Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like we talked about last week. So Zach Ertz could possibly, handle that kind of pressure that is asked of him through the Stefanski offense. But again, 31.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? 2 years, $11 million. I mean, do you want to pay him that much?
Yeah, exactly. But another guy that kind of caught my eye was Evan Engram.
Yeah.
27. I don't think that the Giants are going to pick that contract up because he's. I think they're going to try to revamp that offense. I don't know if half the guys. I don't even think Saquon's going to be back next year. I'm going to say that.
That is a very interesting take, because if he's not going to be back next year, if he is going to be back next year, I mean, and if he has one more injury, he's gone the year after. There's no way on earth. And obviously, I think if Giants, they might to your point, might move him before he, why he's still high on the possibility of him coming back from that. But Evan Engram, I really do like, 6'3", 240. I like a guy who, once again, is used to getting those targets and not being so heavily reliant upon wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 being covered, and then you being the check down option or the guy that just gets open. So personally, I like guys like Evan Engram and Zach Ertz, but obviously Zach Ertz is just going to be requiring a lot of money. So it's just one of those things. It depends. If your wide receiver room 1 through 3, wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, if they're looking really good, then I wouldn't put so much stringent pressure upon there being a very good backup tight end, because your wide receiver room is looking much better. But if you're only going to have 2 wide receivers next year that you really like, then I think that you might have to bring in another tight end that's more reliable.
Yeah. And that's kind of Stefanski's offense. He's more of a tight end centric coach, which, I mean, they can still play. Like, I mean, the receivers still get a lot of touches and stuff, but it's still,
contrary to popular belief.
Yeah. I mean, they can coexist in this offense. I mean, Diggs and all of them did it in Minnesota. Yeah. But going back to Evan Engram, I think he'd be a good pickup, because we could do more of a you'd have 2 receiving type of tight ends in David Njoku and Evan Engram.
Yeah.
And that could help out. Like, you could technically go 5 out and not even have 5 receivers out there.
And that right there is extremely like promising.
Yeah.
And so I think what that would do is give teams a little bit of an ability, because I think a lot of especially end of last season, they were really, you saw teams loading the box on Nick Chubb and just not respecting the pass offense.
Yeah.
And hey, I know a lot of people are going to be probably listening and saying, well, who's throwing the football again?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's probably Baker's fault. That's why they're not respecting it. But hey, listen, if you had some guys that were out there that were really respectable, and if you went on a 5-wide set or something like that, you could still have people respect the fact that you're going to be passing the football. So I think honestly that's going to help out a lot.
Yeah, and going back to like last year, I think people respected Jarvis Landry, but they knew he was hurt. I think that was a big factor in it too.
Yep.
And just the tight ends, man, there was just a knock on Austin Hooper. Like, it was known that as soon as he catches it, he was going to fall, or he just couldn't catch it.
It was known by us. Yeah. We made it known on Twitter.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think it got national too, because there's a lot of people talking about that as well. So I think, but we got to upgrade. I think that would be a good way, because Evan Engram runs like a 4.4. He's fast.
Yes.
And he's going to be matched up with linebackers. And, you throw Kareem Hunt out there in the backfield. You got 2 tight ends out there with 2 wide receivers. Man, because you're going to have your faster linebacker probably on Kareem Hunt.
Absolutely. And
So
people, I like I forgot who, I think it was Mac the Buffalo tweeted out. People sometimes forget about Kareem Hunt. You know what I mean? And I think once again, I saw it today. I'm not going to name any names, but putting out information saying that Kareem Hunt can be traded, is tradable. No. You know what I mean? Listen, my problem is, again, I don't want to go on my soapbox, but if you trade away Kareem Hunt, imagine next season, it's a 17-game season. Imagine if Nick Chubb gets hurt and now you only have Dearness Johnson. Yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe you could, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. It's this running back room works because everybody can be switched out pretty much for the most part for the interim. If you need somebody, you know what I mean? Especially with COVID protocols going on, sometimes you can be healthy and just be out. So listen, I'm not too keen on letting Kareem Hunt just walk.
Yeah. And I think him and Nick Chubb feed off each other so well.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know an exact stat, but I would like to. We need to figure this up by the next episode. Yeah. Or one of our followers can, if they're listening. Yeah. How many games, what the win-loss record is when we have both Kareem and Nick Chubb.
Oh, I do. You know what? I really want to know that. I really want to know that, because I do believe that it has to be somewhat above 500.
Yeah,
it has to be above 500 for sure.
Because, it's just like because Kareem Hunt's still a top 10 running back. I don't care what anybody says. He's a top 10 running back.
I don't care what anyone says. I completely agree. And I know a lot of teams will be, like banging down the door, kicking down the door, trying to get their hands on Kareem Hunt. Yeah. I really do. And I understand where people are saying the trade requests are coming from, because you can get, compensation for Kareem Hunt. But it's like the takeaway. What are you giving?
Yeah. And plus he's a hometown kid. Like, He loves Cleveland. Like, yes, you can just see like when he's on the field, he just smiles.
Loves it. You know what I mean? And I know people are like, "Oh, there's only 1 year left on his deal, and what if he just?" No, he loves Cleveland. Yeah. You know what I mean? Went to Toledo. You know what I mean? In Ohio. So it's like he likes it, and I love guys, especially with all the hate, even during the All-Star break. All the hate that NBA All-Star break, all the hate that Cleveland, the city of Cleveland's getting. Yeah. You got to have guys who want to be in Cleveland. Yeah. You know what I mean? There says something about that.
Yeah, I love Cleveland. I love going to Cleveland, but it's not a Miami. It's not a LA.
Yeah.
And it's you got to work hard in Cleveland. That's what I've noticed. Like the players that work hard,
yes,
and put their nose down, like Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
everybody loves Nick Chubb.
And
Nick Chubb loves Cleveland. Like, yes. And it's just.
It's one of those things, you look at one of the most popular Cleveland Browns since, the turn of the century, Joe Thomas, in the trenches. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things about Cleveland Brown football that if you love the city and you give it your all, they'll love you back, you know?
Yeah.
And so Myles Garrett's chance when he had those 4 or 5 sacks versus the Bears, like, it's like, you know, it really, we love guys like that. We really do.
Oh yeah, 100%. And another guy that seems to be loving Cleveland that's up for a contract extension is Jadaevon Clowney.
So, go ahead.
What do you think? Like, your AB, what are you offering Jadaevon?
So, honestly, I'm going to ask him the question, hey, would you like to retire in Cleveland? That's the first thing I'm curious about. And I believe from reports that he says he doesn't mind, you know, staying in Cleveland. And it would behoove him to be across from Myles Garrett.
Oh yeah.
You know, we saw his stat. We saw both people, like both players benefit from being on the same line as each other. So I would give him a 2-year deal. I'd look at a 2-year deal. I'd say 10 or 11 $million. And because I know that he's going to be asking for a lot. It's Jadaevon Clowney. I made the joke about last week, but Jadaevon Clowney asks for a lot of money, you know, that's what his bottom line is. He's already said it. He's like, I want to stay in Cleveland, but it's all about the money. It's all about the bag. And if he wants more than that, if he wants to be paid, you know, by yearly, I don't know, like 14, 15, we can't really do that for you.
Yeah, with everything going, like, you still got to re-sign Njoku, you got to re-sign Ward. So, like, the thing I've noticed is Jadaevon. I think that Jadaevon works better if there's incentives to the contract.
Yes.
So I would offer him like a 2-year, $8 million per year.
Yeah.
But with incentives, like if he hits double-digit sacks, which he would work his hind end off to get this incentive, but you give him like up to 8 if he gets 10 or double-digit sacks.
Yeah.
And then if he makes a Pro Bowl or All-Pro, give him another $1 million.
You know what? I actually like that a lot. And I know that right now he's on a 1-year, $8 million contract with up to $10 million in incentives. And so that actually really appeases me because I know he's about the money. So if you do give him an $8 million, $9 million, a year contract, depending on, you know, if it's 1 year, 2 years, and actually make it like 12 million, I'd even bump that number up. And because what that does is not only will it encourage him staying healthy, right? Like, but it will also drive him. I mean, he's 29. He's going to be, I think he's going to be, just turned 29, February 14th. So I think that honestly, I'd love to keep him around, and it's going to help, you know, and I know that he knows that he could probably get that in 17 games. So,
yeah. And one thing and like edge rushers, they play a long time.
Yeah,
at good levels.
Yeah, they do. They ask JJ Watt. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
They can play they can be there for a while. You know what I mean? And so it's a. I know you get like chipped and everything on the line when you're coming around the corner, but for the most part, you can be a force of nature out there for a good while. And I think Cleveland loves Jadaevon Clowney, to be completely honest with you.
Oh yeah.
I'll be honest, another, you know, moment of honesty. I believe he exceeded my expectations this year. He fits so well. I would have loved to. The only thing I just would have loved to see him be a little more healthy. But other than that, I mean, I would love to have him back. Yeah.
And speaking of health, this is kind of a segue, but like the Browns really got to upgrade their medical staff next year.
Oh yeah.
And you would think that they would have one of the best medical staffs in the game, with the Cleveland Clinic being right down the road.
Yeah.
So I think they'll upgrade that this year as well.
I think it's going to be one of their bigger things on their priority list. That's probably not talked about enough, because I'm seeing a trend of a lot of these players saying that they were coming back too early. So it's something that I would like to, if I were AB, I would address and saying, okay, what can we do? Is it the I forgot who brought it. I think it was John Johnson who brought up yoga. Doing yoga. Is it Pilates or something? Something that's just more anything that can keep their bodies in shape for a longer season. And I think a lot of people are starting to understand. Got to tell Baltimore this about the injury bug. I think a lot of teams are starting to say, hey, you're going to extend the season, or you're going to take away a preseason game that, whatever. But the problem is you're going to lose a lot of players throughout the season. And everyone goes through injuries. I love that quote. Everyone goes through injuries. It's just people who adapt better to that. I think, unless you're Cincinnati, where you guys really didn't get injured that much. But so it's one of those things where I believe it's going to be a priority for them. And I don't know what exactly goes into that. Or I don't know who you have to replace, but get a new team in there, get new options, get new, just advice on certain situations and saying, hey, should this guy come back? Should they take another week off or whatever the case may be? I think that would help out a lot. Yeah,
and availability is the best ability. So
yes, wow, I love that a lot. I'm getting bracelets made, man. That's what we need.
Yeah, and it's just when everybody started going down toward the end of the season, it just kind of felt like it was just everybody.
Yeah, especially the O-line. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
We were shuffling.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Cards just to find, and then to top it all off, we had the COVID game, which honestly we still should have won versus Oakland. It still hurts. But so many close games this year that you can always attribute to injuries. If this person were playing, if that person were playing, and it's so trying to figure out a way to stay healthy for longer has to be a priority for England, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a little segue for our notes, and I forgot to bring this up a little bit earlier. And it's a possibility of a receiver. Yeah. I just looked at the notes and saw it, so that's why we're segueing into it.
Let's do it. Talk to me about it. Yeah.
And this guy, he's noting the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
He plays for a team down south.
Yes.
In New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
And this team in New Orleans has a lot of cap. They're in a lot of cap debt right now.
76 million.
Yeah.
A cool 76 million.
What you said earlier, this receiver, how much did Mike Thomas make? I know you got that pulled up or had that in your notes. I know he was a top 5. I know it'd be a big hit to trade for him.
It would be, yeah. He was a top 5 receiver, yeah.
Yeah, and he is a top 5 receiver, I believe, when he's healthy. Which last year he wasn't, but
he's under contract right now for 5 years, 96 million.
Yeah, and we're in need of a receiver. What's better than bringing the kid home? Bringing him back to the state.
He, and playing in Ohio State. I wonder. I know people were saying, he's going to stay there. This case of the whatever. But I wonder where his mindset is on coming back to Ohio. I really think that he might want a change of scenery. I think the writing's on the wall for the Saints.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no Drew Brees. 76. They're going to be dumping cash like crazy and letting players go. I know Marcus Williams might be a guy that they're just let walk. I don't think they're going to have any plans on bringing him back. And so I think Michael Thomas would be another guy that they look to and say, hey, thank you for your service. or we're sorry. We're tired of losing in the NFC Championship game. And Drew Brees isn't here. So
neither Sean Payton.
Yeah, exactly. Sean Payton's also gone. Oh my gosh. That's another person that's it's all right. Michael Thomas is probably okay. I might be out. I think it's his ankle that he was out with that he's been having problems with that he's been keeping out. But so $35 million fully guaranteed. I personally would love more than anything for AB to make a strong push for Michael Thomas.
Oh yeah,
I want to see if he's willing to come back to Ohio.
Yeah, and he's notorious. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter call him Slant Boy. And if we do get rid of Jarvis, we need somebody to throw in that slot position and run a lot of slants.
I love it. 6'3", and he's a bigger body than Jarvis Landry is. Mm-hmm. So for me, you kind of get both the best of both worlds. I believe we have the money to bring him on board. I know he's coming off of injury. Give him some incentives. I'm huge on his incentives. Uh-huh. So me personally, I have no problem with trying to go after Michael Thomas. It's going to be, I'm sure everyone else is, you know what I mean? So 31 teams are probably trying to figure out how they can get their hands on Michael Thomas, but I believe AB can do it for sure.
Oh yeah. And who better to throw him the football than Baby Breeze? Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, I love when people were talking about, Baker Mayfield trying to call up Drew Brees. I think that's something that, that's a side note. It's a little bit of a side note, but I really think that he probably should, shorter guys. And honestly, if he does that, just to try to humble yourself a little bit and say, hey, you're a shorter quarterback who played for a long time. And I think that would help him out. So, hey, Mike Thomas.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on down.
Yeah, and if Brees will work with Baker this offseason and if he'll just talk to him because Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, for sure.
You go back and look at his tape, man. He had multiple years of 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and
of being undersized.
Yeah,
and not the most mobile guy in the world. He's not the scrambling all over the place.
Yeah.
So, I think he can definitely help out Baker Mayfield, but just give him a few pointers, release points. You know what I mean? And different ways how to read defenses.
Yeah, and one thing I would love for Baker to work on this offseason is being able to take the hit, make the throw, and take the hit. Yeah, that's one thing I think he struggles with, and because he'll start running, he gets antsy in the pocket real quick and just throws it into bad predicaments. And I think once he learns to just stay in the pocket, you're going to get hit, and getting the ball off quick. Mm-hmm. He holds the ball too quick or too long. Yeah. He doesn't get it off in time, and he gets antsy in the pocket. Mm-hmm. And I think working with Drew Brees, it'll teach him to get the ball off quicker, just calm him down in the pocket.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the greats of doing that is Tom Brady. You know what I mean? He just the quickness and the quick release. What that does in turn is sets you up for some rough in the passer penalties. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can get down the field that way. And also that kind of builds your confidence. You know what I mean? You get the ball off quick, and then even if it's a situation where it's batted down, you still can get a nice rough in the passer. So I think in my opinion, I think if he works with Drew Brees on that, I'm not entirely sure what the hesitation is. But I believe he should call him up. I believe somebody in his corner should say, hey, this is the guy to look to.
For sure. And, watching some of the games nationally, it seems like Drew Brees really liked Baker. Mm-hmm. And because, they're so similar.
Yes.
I think Baker maybe has a better, arm, deep ball, but I think Drew Brees' mentality could really help out a guy like Baker Mayfield. And be able to help get Baker Mayfield to that next level.
Absolutely.
And, if Baker Mayfield can get to that next level with this elite running game, we got Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson, and Demetric Felton. It's the Browns will be the next team.
It really would be unfair if you think about 2020 Baker second half. Imagine giving that guy, a Michael Thomas, or imagine giving him some stud wide receivers. Yeah. You know what I mean? At that point. And it's okay, now defenses, because our defense has gotten better since that playoff run. So I think I personally believe that the Browns would be very, very scary if Baker Mayfield takes that next leap.
And I know that the underdog thing for Baker has been so overdriven, and
Yeah.
it's been rode out since he's been drafted.
Yeah.
But he does do better when his back's against the wall.
Don't you notice that?
Like 2020 after OBJ goes down. Oh man, the Browns are done for. Baker can't do it without Odell. Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
The Browns are done. We go to the playoffs. I mean, this year, I'm not going to make an excuse for him. This past year,
Yeah.
I mean, it was terrible to watch, honestly, in some games.
It really is, and even going back to last year, the year before, 2020, going into the playoff game versus Steelers in Heinz Field. When the Steelers were 11-0 at one point that season. Now they were, they dropped a couple of games, but he came out and just was extremely, extremely confident. You know what I mean? And I think that even if you look at this year, and the one game where I can see that he was pretty confident as well was Cincinnati. The whole Odell Beckham just left, and was traded away, and all that hype going into that game. It was Baker's fault, and the Bengals were ranked third or fourth in the AFC or something like that. Really, really, really good team. They just come off beating the Ravens, and it just goes in there and completely tears it up. And I think, me personally, was that because of the Denzel Ward getting everybody hyped play, or was that last year even the touchdown that the Browns scored on the Steelers because of the muffed fumble? I mean the muffed handoff to Ben Roethlisberger. So it's like, is it those plays that get him hype? I don't know, but the underdog mentality definitely helps for sure.
Yeah, and when the defense is playing as well as they did against the Bengals that week, and the way the offense plays, that should be the expectation every week next year. Have that offense humming, because 2020. I know this is kind of a weird thing, but like 2020, the offense was fine. It was the defense that needed work.
Yes.
AB fixed the defense. 2021. The defense was what stood out. The offense is what needs work. Is 2022 the year that we get both sides of the ball? Well, all three, even fixing the special teams. Getting everything, all three sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Getting them in tune. Do you think that's possible this year?
I truly do, especially because the holes that are on this team are very fixable. They're very fixable.
Yeah.
And then I to be completely honest with you, and to be completely candid, I think other teams are in more difficult positions just because they have a lot to do. You know what I mean? I think I think when you look at Pittsburgh even in our division, all right, well, what are they going to do with the quarterback? Who are they going to bring in? I mean, that's still up in the air. They got to get some people on the offensive line. You're going to have Juju come back. It's like, and Baltimore, with all of the injuries, I think for Cleveland, it is, hey, let's wide receiver room, defensive tackle, and get somebody to help out on the offensive line.
Yeah. The Browns got to make some moves. Like it's do or die next year, because you've got Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They're hot.
Absolutely.
They're gonna address that O-line, like whether we like it or not. They're gonna get
100%. I think if I were the Bengals, I would literally just focus on the offensive line.
Yeah, that'll be where every bit of money goes. Like
just.
And then I saw a hypothetical earlier today, and it was the Bengals trade T. Higgins to the Colts. I think there was a pick involved as well, but they trade T. Higgins and a pick for Quentin Nelson.
And I think, and honestly, I think that like people were making fun of it, because I think it was like supposed to be like a joke, but then people it looked kind of serious. Actually, if you squint, it's like, actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just saying how much of a need the Bengals, you know what I mean? Like, they were willing to trade one of their trio to get a guy like Quentin Nelson, and even maybe to teach, because all you need really is one. You get one guy in there to hype up that O-line room and really get everything started. And Quentin Nelson is a beast on the whole line. He is a beast. So right up there with Schwartz from Kansas City. I mean, Quentin Nelson's my favorite O lineman. One of the best in the league. So I think that if you're besides Bitonio and Teller for me, but I think if you're looking at Cincinnati, all jokes aside, they really need to address that O-line room, and if they do, it's going to be a little bit problematic for Cleveland.
Yeah, and that's just where the Browns have constantly beat Cincinnati. The past couple of years was up front because we had Miles, and our D-line was always pretty good the past couple of years. So, once they address that, and I mean, the Ravens are going to come back. They're going to be healthy next year. And Pittsburgh, under Mike Tomlin, they've not had a losing year. So, he's going to have them boys ready in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, you're just going to have to make the moves. You're going to have to beat these guys up. Because I think that the AFC North is still going to be as tight as it was this year.
I completely agree.
But, looking back at it, I know this sounds really biased coming from a Browns fan. But, had the Browns not had all these injuries, had they not have the COVID games, plus the Ravens, if the Ravens don't have all these injuries and all the COVID games that they had, did the Bengals even make the playoffs?
To be honest with you, and I know that a lot of people from the outside looking in from other fan bases and from people who are just, laissez-faire kind of fans of the NFL, they're like, well, the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. If you really look at this division, the Ravens were really pretty much in control of it until all of the injuries went down.
Yeah,
it was Lamar Jackson and Justin Tucker, holding it down.
Had the Bengals lost to the Chiefs week 17, and the Browns beat the Steelers, I mean, the Browns are still in contention for the AFC North.
Absolutely. And you look at the loss. Even at that point, the ball was in our court. I think heading into there was a time period where everybody was losing who was supposed to be losing. I think it was heading into the game against Oakland, and it was like, come on, guys, if you could just literally, we had a bunch of players come out. If you could just win, and then we still had some hope going into Green Bay. Where we're like, well, we gotta beat Green Bay, and that was even a close game. Yeah, so it's like,
which I think when we beat the Ravens, I think it made us the number one in the division at the time.
Yes.
So we actually led middle of December. We were number one in the AFC North. So that just tells you how close this division was.
Yes.
When the bottom two teams in the division actually ended up making the playoffs that week.
Yeah, and I think that, to be honest with you, and another thing that I think a lot of people don't point out, the Cincinnati Bengals had the easiest schedule in the AFC North. Because they finished last the year prior. And so people are so quick to grant them the AFC North title next year. But I'm looking at, I am biased a little bit because we have the third easy schedule. But you're looking at the Baltimore Ravens coming back healthy. They're going to have the easy schedule. So it's like, your road to the playoffs. Now, granted, I will give credit where credit is due. They did do what they had to do versus the playoff teams they faced.
Yeah.
So, Raiders and Chiefs. So it's kind of like, all right, got to give credit where credit is due there.
Yeah, and, the AFC North is the best division of football. I'll continue to say that. And I think that's the reason it's took so long for the Browns to rebuild. Because, I mean, for the longest time you had, Joe Flacco wasn't the greatest quarterback ever, but you had Joe Flacco at the Ravens, Big Ben with the Steelers. You had Carson Palmer / Andy Dalton in Cincinnati, and they were always pretty good. So, it's just really hard to get stuff going then, and it feels like we finally got the team. We can finally compete, and it's just, the Browns' luck happens sometimes.
Yes. It is, and even to start the year, I think we even could have beat the Chiefs week 1 if it wasn't for, Nick Chubb's fumble or the, Jamie Gillen, punt, fumble, punt, stuff like that. So I think overall, there's minor adjustments heading into next season, minor adjustments. The AFC North is definitely winnable, and I'm not down on that whatsoever.
Yep, 100%. And, I think we got the right people in positions making calls.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel like Jimmy Haslam's in there telling AB who to take. I think he's kind of stepped back. He's kind of learned from the Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchen and John Dorsey era that he kind of needs to take a step back. And, and AB we trust. That's just
absolutely. I gotta get a T-shirt made for the next show.
Yeah, and I think that's we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I think so.
If I'm thinking correctly, so
I think so. It's been a great one.
Yeah, and let's do a little something. Let's give like a prediction on one signing. Let's do that.
One free agent signing?
Yeah, we'll do one each free agent signing.
All right.
So
I think that is it going to be a hot take signing or just a free agent signing?
Either or.
I truly believe that we might pick up. I think that we're going to get either Sheldon Richardson back or DJ Chark, wide receiver. I think that we're gonna sign one of those two people.
I'm here for it.
I've been trying to talk about it, but Sheldon Richardson, that might be a surprise for some people. Yeah. But I believe he might be back.
I like those. Speaking of bringing people back, we're probably not going to re-sign Ronnie Harrison. He'll probably not be back.
Yeah.
And
bunching assistant coaches.
And I just remembered that. But we're going to need another safety back there.
Yeah.
And there was a safety that's going to hit the market that used to play for the Browns. And it might bring a little spice back to the secondary. And Jabril Peppers.
You know what? I think his stint with New York, I think it might be done. I think New York might want to go into a different track. I like Jabril Peppers a lot, to be completely honest with you. And rocking the jersey.
Yeah, I'm rocking the jersey.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Jabril Peppers, I like, and honestly, and we can use some special teams help, honestly. So I like Jabril Peppers a lot, and I missed him. I hated to give him up for OBJ, but at the time, obviously, we were getting OBJ. So I like it.
And bringing Jabril Peppers would just make the whole trade full circle.
Yeah. Bring it back. Come on back, bro. Come on.
Be back. Like we didn't even lose anything.
Yeah.
But
absolutely, man.
Yeah, and that was my hot take is getting or my hot free agent signing, I guess, would be maybe potentially signing Jabril Peppers.
Yeah.
And I think that covers the whole episode, man. This was exciting.
It's so awesome.
It's your first episode as a host, man.
Official. This is crazy. It's great things are gonna happen, and I'm so excited for the future.
Oh yeah, we're taking off.
Let's go.
To the moon.
Down with the Browns, baby.
Down with the Browns. And just want to thank everybody for listening. If you just want to hear more from us and just see some more like info, just follow our Twitter. It's DWTB_ for Down with the Browns. We post a lot of stats and just a lot of hypotheticals on there as well, and just kind of Browns news. And we also do that on the Instagram, which is Down with the Browns, and our Facebook channel. All that's on there as well. And it just kind of alerts you when we post new episodes and all that. And so if you just want to keep up with Down with the Browns, follow us on all that. And go Browns.
I'm loving the sound, ready for steel, ready to rave, ready for fall, ready to bang. See us, we coming, we styling, we loud, we passing, we running, we touching it down. Cleveland the city, we good, we did it, we been through the gritty, we loving the Browns. Never will chill, never will lounge. We are the dogs, we are the hounds, never the fears, we blew and we bleeding. So get on your feet, cause we are the Browns.